This story begins on the night of October 12, 1972, a night that marked the start of a journey that would soon turn into one of the most terrifying survival battles the world has ever seen. That night, a young and energetic Uruguayan rugby team, the Old Christians Club, along with their friends and family, making a total of 45 people, boarded a small aircraft headed for Santiago, Chile. Their faces carried smiles, their hearts were filled with the passion to win the upcoming match, and none of them had the slightest idea that this flight would take them straight to the doorstep of death. They were supposed to play just a match, but fate had prepared for them a test of survival so brutal that even today hearing about it sends chills down the spine. Bad weather disrupted their journey, forcing them to spend the night in Mendoza, Argentina. But these were young, determined players. They had to reach on time. The next day, on the afternoon of October 13th, when the plane took off again, Captain Julio Ferradas made an extremely dangerous decision: to fly directly across the world's tallest and most unforgiving mountain range, the Andes. He planned to fly beneath the thick layer of clouds, but he didn't realize that in an attempt to save fuel, he was putting every life on board at risk. This was the decision that turned the journey of those 45 passengers from the sky to the ground into an eternal nightmare. As the aircraft approached the Andean mountains, the pilot made a fatal miscalculation. He believed they had already crossed the range and reached the valleys of Chile, but due to harsh weather and the thick clouds surrounding them, his estimate was completely wrong. Thinking they were safe to descend, the pilot began lowering the aircraft, unaware that they were still trapped among the highest snow-covered peaks of the Andes. Before the pilot could realize his mistake, the plane's right wing struck a mountain peak. The Andes gripped the aircraft in an instant. The impact was so violent that the right wing tore away completely, and within the same second, the tail and the left wing also snapped off. The aircraft had now turned into an uncontrollable missile plunging downwards. Inside the cabin, the scene was nothing short of doomsday. Screams, the roar of snow, and the horrifying sound of tearing metal. The fuselage carrying the remaining passengers slid at terrifying speed down the icy slope. The friction was so intense that it shattered the fuselage into several more pieces. Many were buried instantly in the snowy grave beneath them. Then, suddenly, in a deep, ice-filled valley, the broken fuselage came to a violent halt. This place would later be known as the Glacier of Tears, and for the survivors, it became their final refuge. When the clouds of snow and dust settled, a chilling silence took over. Out of the 45 people on board, 12 had died on the spot. The pilot and co-pilot were among the dead, and as the freezing night took over the mountains, 5 more injured passengers lost their lives. By morning, in the vast emptiness of the Andes, only 28 people remained alive, terrified, freezing, injured, and trapped inside the shattered fuselage. They had no hope, no food, no contact with the outside world. Their battle for survival had just begun. This broken aircraft, stranded at 11,700 feet above sea level in a brutal -30 degrees freeze, had now become the only shelter for the 28 survivors. Their injuries were severe, and their food supplies were almost non-existent. But the biggest shock came when they heard a message on the aircraft's small radio. The authorities had stopped the search. To the world, they were no longer missing. They were officially declared dead. The last ray of hope was buried beneath the snow. Now they had only one choice: to survive on their own. This was the defining moment. Wait or fight. They decided to fight. As the days passed, extreme hunger and weakness began to consume them.
The cold and starvation were slowly eating away their bodies. When all the chocolates, candies, cigarettes, and wine bottles were finished, they were confronted with one of the most difficult, terrifying, and morally devastating decisions in human history. To stay alive, would they have to use the bodies of their dead companions? It was an unthinkable and unbearable idea. After hours of debate, emotional breakdowns, and conflict between faith and survival, a few strong individuals, including Dr. Roberto Canessa, made the agonizing decision. To them, this was their last meal, and they referred to it as a holy communion, giving themselves spiritual strength to commit an act they never imagined. This decision gave them another day of life, but their battle for survival was far from over. 17 days after the crash, on the night of October 29, another disaster struck while the survivors slept. A massive avalanche slammed into the fuselage and buried it completely under the snow. 8 more people died instantly from suffocation and the extreme cold. After being trapped for 22 hours, the remaining survivors barely managed to dig their way out. Now only 19 people were left alive, and they finally understood that if they wanted to survive, they would have to escape this deadly prison in the mountains on their own. Staying any longer inside the shattered fuselage meant only one thing: certain death. The cold, the despair, and the lack of food pushed them to a breaking point. They made the decision to cross the mountains and search for help. 3 of the strongest men, the one who never gave up, Nando Parrado, Roberto Canessa, and Antonio Vicentin, were chosen for the mission. They stitched together sleeping bags from the aircraft seat covers, and with the smallest possible rations, Nando and Roberto set out on a journey that seemed impossible. Nando Parrado and Roberto Canessa knew that this trek was not just an attempt, it was the last hope for the remaining 17 survivors. They began climbing the snow-covered mountains, where every step carried the risk of falling to their deaths. Vicentin was eventually sent back to reduce the load, leaving Nando and Roberto alone, hungry, exhausted, but determined. Nando carried one belief in his heart: beyond these mountains, there is life. This belief was powered not only by hope, but by the pain of losing his mother and sister in the crash.
After 10 days of brutal, lonely, and terrifying journey, they finally crossed a high peak, and instead of endless snow, they saw green grass and flowing water. They had escaped the mountains. On December 20, 1972, 70 days after the crash, the 2 men reached a riverbank. There, they encountered a Chilean muleteer, Huaso Sergio Catalan. The river was too loud to communicate, so Nando wrote a message on a piece of paper, wrapped it around a stone, and tossed it across to Sergio. The message was short, but heartbreaking. "We come from a plane that crashed in the mountains. We are from Uruguay, and we are starving." Sergio Catalan rushed with the note to the authorities, and after weeks of silence, the world finally learned there were survivors in the Andes. In the next 2 days, the Chilean Air Force launched a difficult rescue operation using helicopters. Due to harsh weather, the rescue had to be done in 2 phases. When the survivors saw the first helicopter approaching, after 72 days of suffering, starvation, and freezing cold, their eyes filled with tears. On December 22nd and 23rd, 1972, all 16 remaining survivors were finally rescued from the icy prison. It wasn't just a rescue, it was one of the greatest miracles of human survival. When their story spread worldwide, especially the desperate decision of cannibalism, controversy erupted. But soon, even the Vatican declared it an act of the last resort in the war for survival. The story of these 16 survivors reminds us that when all hope seems lost, when death stands inches away, the strength of the human spirit can surpass every force in the universe. They proved that hope, no matter how faint, never dies. Thank you so much for watching the video. Take care of yourself and your family. Stay happy, stay safe, and don't forget to keep our channel alive by subscribing. Thank you.